ranking every double tap location, and coming into our number 20 spot by an absolute mile, we have got transit. I'm sorry, I tried to find every excuse possible not to put it here, but it is just so bad. I mean, farm is genuinely in the middle of nowhere on transit. It is so far from town to the point where if I go down, I just won't even bother going for double tap again, because I just can't be arsed, even though it's easily one of the most helpful perks on Black Ops 2. And then you've got the location itself, in the back corner of the barn at farm. Like, cool man. I mean, how boring is that? Anyway, I'm not going to harp on much longer about transit, because what's in next is a far more interesting ranking. We have got Call of the Dead. I mean, when one thinks about what is the most pointless part of Call of the Dead, the immediate and most obvious answer is without a doubt the double tap spot. Located right at the back end of the boat, the sole purpose of this location is literally to house double tap. And on a game that features the 1.0 version of double tap, you're really not doing this perk any favours. I mean, it's not like it's as far out the way as something like Stamina Up, but yet it still feels like far more of an inconvenience. Which, if that's the case, you must be doing something wrong. Just like the next map on our list, Diaryrise. If you're going to do random perk locations in a zombies map, you've got to get it right. And Diaryrise is the prime example of how not to do it right. Because Diaryrise's perks are what I like to call double randomized. As not only do the perks change elevators every game, but the elevators themselves change position throughout the game too. So you've got to wait ages for the elevator to arrive, just for it to probably not be double tap anyway. It doesn't add anything to the game other than it being bloody annoying. And in the end, I'd rather just put myself out of my misery. Speaking of misery, and at our number 17 spot, we have got Shinon Numa, another case study of how to not do random perks. A few people may disagree with me here, but I think Shinon Numa's layout is absolutely god awful. And that's because there is absolutely no sense of progression in this map at all. Most of the time, it's just trial and error, trying to find double tap on this map and hoping you get lucky. I challenge you to name me a bigger waste of time and points in zombies than opening up an entire section just for quick revive to spawn in. For all intents and purposes, there may as well be a giant middle finger behind that door instead. The feeling would be the exact same. Not exactly my idea of fun. Moving on to the number 16 spot now, we have got Nuketown Zombies. Not quite as bad as the last three, but still not great either. So on Nuketown Zombies, as we all know, just like Diaryrise, the perks are double randomized. So not only is the location random, the time it comes into the map is random also. Which I never used to understand the criticism of this, as I thought it provided a good challenge. But having played it the last few times, I can now see the annoyance. The problem is that the map is just lacking in things to do. And the map isn't exactly the most challenging either, despite random perk spawns. So it doesn't really make a big difference in terms of surviving, whether double tap comes in round 5 or 25, it just makes it more slow and painful. Anyway, moving into the number 15 spot now, we've actually got Buried. So a lot of you probably don't think this location is that bad. I mean, you can just grab it on the way to Pack-a-Punch. And I mean, that may be true, and is why Buried's not any lower on this list. But the problem with this one is A, Speed Cola, Vulture's Aid, and even Mule Kick are in far more convenient spots on this map, to the point where if you go down after being set up, you've got to go all the way through the witch's house and back again just to get double tap. Which is a pain, where you could instead just grab Speed Cola and Vulture's Aid, both of which are nearby, and be done with it. Moving on now to number 14, we have got Shang Raar. Now just like other Black Ops 1 maps, when you've got the 1.0 version of double tap, you've really got to give it a good selling point to compete with the likes of Stamina Up and PhD. And unfortunately, random perk locations does not provide that to this perk. Because when you've got perks in set locations, you can place them in spots that correspond to their level of usefulness, where a less useful perk may get a more relevant area to boost its chances of a purchase. But with the random perks on Shang Raar, if double tap is on the opposite route to the one I choose to power, I will never buy it. And when you're one of the weaker options, that's definitely not a good setup. Speaking of a less than ideal setup, next up we have got the Giant. Now this is one of those maps where the random double tap locations aren't bad, they're just unnecessary. Because the best 4 perks are Jug, Quick Revive, Speed Cola and double tap anyway. Having them randomized doesn't change the fact I'm going to buy them. Nor does it provide any challenge either. It's just annoying and a bit of an inconvenience, as most of these areas are pretty useless in regards to the map anyway. Sure, You could argue that it makes every game a bit different, but I've always preferred the perks on Diaryrise being in their specific locations. It's just more iconic that way. Now what's also not iconic, but I think slightly better than the Giant, is Zetsubo Noshima. For basically the same reasons as the Giant, the random double tap locations on this map are definitely not doing any favours for Zetsubo. Once again, random perks don't tend to influence me in the way of buying different perks, so why even bother? It's just a bit unnecessary. However, unlike the Giant, the areas where the random perks are do actually have a bit more of an importance within the game, and as such aren't too far out of the way. On to our number 11 spot now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Kino, an iconic double tap location located in the alley outside the cinema. Now as we all know, this is easily the far lesser used route to power, so the only time anyone is out this way is usually for the box. Granted, there are only 5 perks on Kino anyway, so it doesn't put it at too much of a disadvantage to any other perk, but because it's in quite an irrelevant spot, I do find myself ashamedly going for Mule Kick more often just due to its close proximity to Speed Cola. I think if you swap Double Tap and Speed Cola, at least for the Black Ops 1 version, it would make for some more interesting perk choices, and balance out the map a bit better. Speaking of balanced, we are now at the halfway point on our list today at the number 10 spot, ladies and gentlemen, Grod Krov. Here's where the double tap locations actually start being half decent. Now double tap on Grod Krov is neither great nor bad. So the main areas of importance on Grod Krov are without a doubt Dragon Command and the Center Department area. And the Tank Factory is sort of one of those places where you only go if you have to. However, the same can be said for a lot of the other perks on this map, i.e. Stamina Up and Speed Cola. So there is no inherent disadvantage with location in regards to the map. But in terms of the specific location itself, I do find it to be a bit dodgy. It's very prone to getting cornered, especially in the higher rounds. Which, don't get me wrong, a challenge is good, but it would be nice if they provided a better means of escape. Now moving to the number 9 spot, we have got Revelations. A double tap spot that is quite similar to the one on Grod Krov in terms of its location on the map. Located in the Origins part of Revelations, this spot is certainly not the most visited part of Revelations, but all other perk locations on the map tend to feature in locations with similar qualities anyway, which means it may be a bit of an inconvenience to get, but it's not at a disadvantage as the same is true for the other perks anyway. However, unlike Grod Krov, this one is a bit more player friendly and isn't quite as crammed, so I've decided to put it slightly above GK. Moving on to our number 8 spot and into the genuinely decent locations now, we have got Der Eisendrache. So interestingly enough, this is probably one of the more isolated parts of this map. However, being Der Eisendrache, you kinda have to take that with a grain of salt, because the map is so well utilized that calling any part of it isolated is a bit of a misnomer, as there are multiple times during the game where you will find yourself in this area, whether it be for various bow upgrades, the Easter egg, side Easter eggs, etc. Providing you with the ability to grab double tap as you go, which some of you might find to be an unfair advantage in terms of ranking, but I think it is exactly the map's job to ensure that perk locations are provided with some relevancy. However, I will say that some rival perk locations are without a doubt in far better spots, and especially Speed Cola and Stamina Up, which is why it ain't any higher on the list. Although the same certainly can't be said for our next map. Into the number 7 spot, we have got Diaryrise. Now, I want to start off by saying firstly that obviously this is a solid double tap spot. It's very central, you run past it at the start of every game, it is quite good. But it's not as great as some of you probably are thinking. And that's because this spot is actually not utilized very often after everything is set up. Because once set up, you don't need to run up here anymore to get between Pack-a-Punch and the catwalk area. So while it's not necessarily inconvenient to get double tap, it's in an area that doesn't get a lot of foot traffic, and so I don't find myself getting it as much as what I probably could. But nonetheless, it's still a decent spot. And let's move on to our number 6 ranking. We have got Verupt, where it all started for double tap. Located in the hallway upstairs after you open the spawn door from the Juggernog side, which I find to be the better spawn room anyway. So it not only has close proximity to the most important perk, but this is also one of the most important parts of the map, as this area features the trap, which is one of the best ways to progress through the rounds on this map. So having double tap nearby provides it with a great opportunity to be purchased. The location itself is a bit tight, meaning you can get into a bad situation, but I don't find it to be too much of a problem. In a game where Speed Cola is certainly the better perk, I find myself buying Double Tap just as often as Speed Cola solely because of its handy location. And talking about handy locations, in at the number 5 spot, we have got Mob of the Dead. So Double Tap on Mob of the Dead is located under the prison near the Tomahawk pickup. And there's a couple of reasons why I find this location great. One is because it is on one of the main pathways connecting the prison and the docks area, so you are running past it a fair bit. And two is its close proximity to both Speed Cola and Electric Cherry, which it pairs very nicely with, making it very easy to just get all 3 perks in one go, whether you are setting up or having had just gone down. It makes that process nice and easy on a map that does have quite a bit of running around. But what doesn't feature a lot of running around on is our number 4 spot, 5. Not only is Double Tap located in the War Room on 5, which is already the most utilised room on the map, but it's located right outside the elevator, one of the most iconic camping spots, where it is super helpful, especially if using one of those slow firing Black Ops 1 LMGs. And like I have mentioned before, giving it the best opportunity to be utilised within the game. Even if you are not wanting to camp here, I think it is still a solid spot, as the elevator is what connects the different areas, so you will find yourself going past it quite often. However, as 5 is quite small anyway, I don't think it deserves to be in the top 3. But what might come as a bit of a surprise, certainly to myself at least, is Shattered Veil at number 3. And yeah, like I say, I'm kinda as surprised as you guys probably are. But I think it's a great spot. Personally, whenever I play this map, I find myself running through this area all the time. And Double Tap always seems to just catch the corner of your eye, reminding you it's there, enticing you with its new makeover. When I think about the way this perk system works, there are arguably other perks that are more useful to the player around the map, that normally I would pick up first. But having Double Tap in a location like this one, I find myself grabbing it far more often than what I probably would had it have been elsewhere, which is nice and provides a bit of variety. I also like how the spot can provide a bit of a challenge considering how fast the zombies and bosses can be on this map. But it's nothing too crazy at the same time, which I like. And for very similar reasons, in at our number 2 spot is Moon. So Double Tap on Moon is, I would argue, probably in the best spot it could possibly be in terms of this map. I mean, to be honest, apart from Jug and Speed Cola at Area 51, Moon has some pretty solid locations for its perks. With Double Tap being located in the laboratory, you will find yourself running past this perk dozens of times in a game, as the lab connects power/spawn with the outside area and the biodome, and as such has probably the highest level of foot traffic within the game. Not to sound like a broken record, but with Double Tap 1, it needs to be in an area that has relevance to the map, and Moon does a perfect job of providing Double Tap with that. And the only map that does a better job than Moon is our number 1 spot, Shadows of Evil. This map just continues to get better and better with age, and one thing I think they got absolutely perfect is the Double Tap location. Funnily enough, Double Tap is actually random on this map, as it can spawn in one of 3 districts alongside Jug and Speed Cola. But Shadows of Evil absolutely nailed its random perk system, because it is used to complement its layout, as there are 3 districts that must be completed for setting up on this map. And so random perks ensures that no one district is completed first more often than the others. On top of that, the game shows you where each perk is located from the junction too, allowing you to do each district depending on what perk you prefer. Not to mention the locations themselves are great too, all located near the start of the districts, meaning they are never miles away. And the locations themselves do provide a bit of a challenge if you find yourself up there mid-round, which is perfect. I love the Double Tap locations on this map, and for that reason I've put it at number 1. Thanks so much for watching everyone, and we'll see you next week.